How do we intro this thing? I'm fired up.
That's it. Now we're live. Let's do it.
I'm excited.
So,
I'm really excited about what we have to talk about today.
Well,
I'm excited about something that Sanan sent me earlier. It was a man cave that got caught underneath Grand Central Station, and it was whack.
A man cave
A man cave.
that got caught?
hey, we may have seen it and not
It
its
was a
best state.
hidden man cave
Oh,
underneath
cool.
Grand Central Station.
Were the
It was
Ninja
a-
Turtles there?
Shredder.
I'm pretty
Close.
sure that's where they lived.
It was like the photos, skimming through the photos. It was like there's one beer in the refrigerator. There's a futon that's kind of crusty underneath a desk. Like, it was a very weak man cave.
What do they got? Like urban explorers, right? There's like these guys who just like climb around in sewage tunnels until they find cool shit.
Well, I think it was like a former used space.
It's probably an office space of some
Yeah.
sort.
But working down there.
But makes me wonder what your man cave would be like if you could make a man cave the way that you would want to.
Well, Hollis has got a bunch of those like Playboy bunny calendars in his room, so
Dude.
I imagine it's that.
Do I have to build it in my house, or can I have any house I want?
Let's
'Cause
say it's going
I'm
to be.
quite limited in my
Okay.
man cave
Let's say
space
it's going
here.
to be
Get one room.
underneath Grand Central Station.
I would have a super sweet man cave. First off, I would have a really disgusting giant leather couch, which is like, I think, mandatory for all man caves
Why did you choose for it to be disgusting?
because it's my man cave. And
Okay.
it's had like years of like me sleeping on it and passing out on it.
So it wasn't always disgusting.
That time you came over and puked on it when we were in high school. We never cleaned it. It's just the man cave couch.
Oh, it is
Wow.
disgusting.
So we have the man cave couch, which you have to have. And then instead of doing like a giant TV, I would do like the projector. I'd do like a big ass projector, and then I have like a badass sound system, and then I have like every Xbox, PS3, all that crap that I don't ever play, but other people would come over and play it.
So what would you do in the man cave?
I'd probably just do all the same shit I do now. I just like research marketing. Only I would drink.
Wow.
I drink whiskey while I do it. That'd basically be my
Yeah.
man cave.
Yeah.
So you were pretty close to your dream.
Yeah, I'm not far off. I don't have a huge imagination. I'm limited in scope.
Mine would be more like a garage than a man cave. I would be able to drive into it with my truck. Tools would be all over the place that I could work on things, build a motorcycle, new surfboard.
So it'd be the workshop.
It'd be a workshop.
That's a
more than
good
man
point.
cave.
Now that you say that, I want a wood shop in mine too.
Yeah.
You already lost your.
No, I'm gonna keep
Major
adding.
wood.
I'm just gonna keep
Yeah.
adding to my man cave as you guys talk about
That's
yours.
fine. That's fine. Not have a fireplace in it.
Yeah, you gotta have a
Yeah.
fireplace.
In the garage?
Yep.
Fuck yeah.
Yep. I want
Damn.
to smell campfire while I'm wrenching on my motorcycles.
Yeah, one
Would
of those
you?
like legit fires
This
that
is a
actually use
fucking man
wood.
cave, dude. This isn't a woman's spa.
Smells like rich mahogany.
Yeah.
You know, many leather-bound.
But you're
books.
right though. You got the couch. The couch is right. I don't know if I'd have a disgusting leather couch. I mean, I guess everything's perspective and relative to the individual. My version of a leather couch isn't necessarily Sanan coming over and puking on it and never cleaning it.
This guy
But
can't hold
And
his
then
liquor.
not clean.
but
Specifically.
it may smell like campfire or cigars or something like that, which somebody might find disgusting.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I would change my man cave now that you mentioned it. I actually do want a women's spa.
Have you ever used toe spacers? They're amazing. They feel
God.
so good.
No, I think definitely the room would be used for three purposes. It would be reading, so I'd have a lot of books.
Gotta have more books. I need books too.
Definitely be some smoking going on in there. And then probably whiskey. Big whiskey
Yeah.
collection. That has to
Good.
be it.
A good.
Actually, I could probably morph that
bourbon.
into three W's. It would be whiskey, weed, and weeding. So I'd be
Whiskey,
weeding my
weed,
books.
and weeding.
I just
Three
realized.
W's.
So my man cave. This is one of the greatest things you just made me think of. So like, I love smoking cigars,
Mm-hmm.
but like when you smoke a cigar for like, I'll have to like brush my teeth 3 times.
Yeah, it's gross.
Scope, take like 4 showers, and then I still smell like cigar. So I would want some kind of like human like drive-through car wash that I would just like walk through as I exit my man cave. They would just like hose me off with like, I don't know, some sort of super strong detergent.
I see potential for that turning sexual very fast.
Just, like, clean
it started out like a great idea, and then people got really perverted about it.
I'm cool having a two-headed shower in the man cave somewhere, so that way, if there happens to be a woman who wants to come over,
Yeah.
So women are allowed in your man cave.
Well, but I want some way of leaving where I can like get the cigar smoke off me like as I exit. I'm not quite sure how that would work. I'd like hire a staff of people like Steve Jobs and be like, get on it.
You'd hire Steve Jobs,
Yeah, I'd hire Steve Jobs to like
Who's dead?
solve my cigar smoke problem.
but he's dead. Oh, you mean like someone like Steve Jobs?
Well, yeah, someone like him.
Okay.
Or I mean, if I could get the ghost of Steve Jobs, that'd probably be pretty good.
So then one rule for a man cave is part of the rule that there can't be women in the man cave because otherwise it wouldn't be a man cave?
You can have,
Or is it
a
that
woman's touch and decor,
they can be invited into the man cave. They just can't come uninvited. That's the
or
that's your-
stay for an elongated amount of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it's primarily like it's an invitation only space.
That's how I feel about it.
and like if you dropped over to hang out in the man cave, you can't bring your girl
Yeah, that'd be
uninvited.
so messed up.
Uninvited.
That'd be a little messed up, especially if it was already there. Like, you know.
Yeah, it's just trampling on morals.
I would also have a Nintendo Wii with like the little balance board. I really enjoy that shit.
Your man cave sounds like there's a lot of dissimilar parts in
It's
one
like-
space.
It's like a Dave and Buster's.
I'll admit,
you have children playing while you do marketing stuff.
I don't even envision a television in my man cave.
I
Nice.
really
question a television as well.
Yeah,
I
really
would
don't.
actually want to keep it distraction free.
I see a shuffleboard over in the corner. I see a nice bar. I see a floor space to be able to work again on motorcycles and surfboards. I see a lot of books over on the shelf for like guidebooks, not reading books. I don't want to read in my man cave.
I want to read in my man cave.
I want to read.
I picture one single big comfy couch.
Big circle.
Big circle, what do you mean?
Big circle couch.
No. Like just one couch with one space for one person.
So a chair.
I'd like my man
a sofa
cave to
chair.
have a hot tub and a sauna. And
Dude, sauna? Oh my gosh, I
man,
would
no,
love
yeah.
a sauna.
hot tub, sauna, and one of those float tanks.
Those
Go
are
Joe Rogan on it.
But so like, okay, I'm trying to like, I see a cohesive image with Scott's
Yeah.
man cave. Yours keeps adding like I feel like you're gonna say a giraffe next. Like I just want a giraffe in there for soothing.
That's a really good point. I would
It's my emotional support giraffe.
I would like a couple of dogs. Couple of dogs.
Dogs
Couple
are
of
dogs are
Dogs are
definitely.
pretty sweet.
In
So my
addition
man
to
cave-
Rob or replacing Rob?
Well, no, Rob plus others, but there would
Okay.
need to be some kind of backyard for them too. Which I don't know how that works when you're underground.
You need a dog that's always welcome in the man cave.
You know what? Maybe it'd be like a dog tunnel where they could just run up to the yard.
Is that messed up though? That a
Through
dog's
the-
always welcome in the man cave, but
Not at all. Dogs are.
I don't know. Man's
Dogs
best
are
friend.
man's best friend and unconditional love
versus conditional love.
versus conditional
On
love
a- on
that
and
what you
strings attached.
On a serious note, some really good relationship advice is be more like a dog. I mean, don't hump everything
Well,
that you come across.
don't-
I was like, wait a minute.
Don't call your significant other a bitch though. That's not
Yeah,
gonna
no,
go.
don't do
That's
that.
not gonna go good.
I'll have to.
I'm like,
I'll have
wait,
To,
so
I'll have to
dogs-
unpack that one another time.
Yeah, I was like, wait, we
But
quickly.
it's solid advice.
I was like,
They're
ooh.
loyal. They don't hold grudges. They're always happy to see you.
Yep.
They have
Yeah.
baggage sometimes.
Dogs?
Sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they may have
Sometimes.
baggage for other people, but
I mean,
not for you.
Rob's got. Maybe not for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob's definitely got baggage.
Rob and I are solid. He just doesn't like other people. But you're in the club now.
Ish.
You touched his head today. That's pretty big, and he didn't growl.
Well, that's the multiple times I've touched his head. One time I petted his head for a little while. I was very drunk and I was like, what am I touching? And I looked down and Rob's there. I was like, oh shit.
I don't remember being unzipped.
This is it's a big moment, Sinan. I mean, that's you're one of few people. And Scotty, I think you'll be here. You'll be in the club like.
Food just gets to him.
Oh, I've already given him a couple
there.
scratch behind the ears.
Yeah, Andy doesn't attack you when you come in the door, so I think
I notice he always looks at your feet, and I think he does not like shoelaces. Because he looked at my feet today. I wore sandals, and he's just like, oh, okay, we're good.
I love the crazy theories. It's not the shoelaces; it's the person wearing the shoelaces.
But he doesn't bite my feet when I'm wearing.
That's because he knows you. But if he didn't know you, he would attack your heels like he does everyone else.
I'm telling you, man.
I think you might be onto something.
But what
I think it might be shoelaces.
I think he doesn't like the bounce. Like I think there's something. Like he watches it. Like I see him watching the shoelaces.
I have yet to experience Rob attack me, but I've never come over wearing shoelaces.
The one time he attacked me, I was wearing these big, dangly, juicy white shoelaces.
What I will say is he doesn't like little Mexican children, and especially ones wearing hoodies. Loses his crap every time.
I don't know how you can surmise that, because he barks at every fucking person that walks by your house.
There's like an extra level, and like he grew up with like some little Mexican kids who I think like messed with him a bit.
Dogs have memories.
Yeah, he's got he has some baggage. You're right. He's got some baggage, but he's a good guy.
Could he tell the difference between an Ecuadorian and a Mexican person? Probably not, right?
Robert? No, he can't tell, but I can tell.
He can't.
Wow.
I want to mention that this podcast, or this series that we've done on these propositions, has opened my eyes to what is out there so much. And I've been thinking that this is the most informed I've ever been leading up to an election. Because I have never done this much digging into the propositions that are on the ballot. And as we've been talking through them, I'm starting to realize that it's almost a facade. Like we're voting on these things that we really don't know the implications of it without digging a little deeper. And even then, you still don't know what the actual outcomes are going to be. And it's done in such a misleading sort of, like you wonder why it didn't take much to just be more transparent. It doesn't take much to be more transparent with what they're doing or how they're looking to implement. It's like, okay, I want to vote for the legalization of pot, but we're not going to tell you how we're going to legalize pot because there's some stipulations there that the government can change or the state can change or the city can change.
Yeah, it's open-ended. It's for a lot of these, there's an ambiguous statement like, we're going to use the funds to pay down debt. Well, how are you going to use the funds to pay down debt? What debt? What is the debt that exists? And how did that debt be created? And what are you going to do with the funds on top of it if you have funds left over? So they don't really spell out a lot of clarity on any of these.
No. I noticed, so there's this, and we'll get into it when we do Prop 16 in a later time, but, you know, one of the things that affirmative action programs have been criticized for is whether or not they're narrowly tailored, meaning are you specifically tailoring your policies and procedures to meet like certain goals or outcomes? Like, is it narrowed enough, or are you just kind of like throwing shit? And I'm seeing like these proposals and ballots aren't narrowly tailored. They're like these broad sweeping things that we're voting for, and it's like there's 8 pieces of it and 6 that you agree with, but those 2 on there you're like,
yeah, it's really weird. And the other thing that I haven't done yet that I think will be the next step is you can see the actual ballot initiatives, like the actual document.
yeah.
I'm yet to read the actual document.
Dude, they're brutal.
What I've been, or even attempted. I've read like the summaries, I've read people's interpretations, I've read what they put on Ballotpedia, but I have not actually tried to dive in. And that's my next mission to try to actually read one of these things.
Yeah, there was this
like,
one.
What the F is this?
There was this one website, I think it was a local news site, and it said something like, everything you need to know about Prop 16 in 2 minutes.
Not possible.
I was like, what?
Not at all possible.
Not possible, right? It's just so silly.
So which ones are we talking about today?
So I'm excited to jump into Prop 19. And I want to start that with that one because it's another tax one. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard for me to keep all these little things in my head. Mm-hmm. So I want to kind of blurt this one out with you guys. Then the other one we have is Prop 18. And Prop 18 is much simpler in concept. Not as many details to kind of, talk around. But I think we'll have some strong opinions on Prop 18 on both sides.
So before we jump into it, I
Yeah.
want to recap last time we talked about the one that you brought in, which was about commercial taxation. Do you have any updates on that?
Nope.
What proposition was that again?
It's Proposition 15.
Okay, so I found I want to dig into that one, like that 3 million mark, again sometime later. But I did find some other information. That one was like, I was thinking about that one because it's such an interesting proposition. But I realized that in 76 that they passed Proposition 78.
Proposition 13, 78.
Proposition 13. So I read this New York Times article that was alleging that the way it was sold in 78 or earlier when it was getting through the process was that they were saying to homeowners, this is how you're going to save a lot of money. But there were provisions in that to exempt businesses too. So it was like there was this, it's kind of saying there's this think tank of like business people with these interests who are like, we need to reduce our tax liability. Let's leverage these propositions, and then we'll throw in this one that we know people are going to be like, yes, we want less taxes on our houses. Why wouldn't we? And it got sold like this, and now here we are 22 years later. Wait, how many years? 50?
But I don't know.
A lot more than 22.
Yeah, that was
do that
78. That's 280, 42 years. We're here 42
Yeah,
years
that's a long time.
later trying to upend a piece of it. And there have been apparently other attempts to make changes, close loopholes. Republicans tried to close these loopholes that allowed companies to essentially, rather than get reassessed, they would transfer their property and they wouldn't get like, okay, I'm changing owner. Well, there's ways to not have you get reassessed higher value. So
Yeah,
they're trying to close those loopholes.
We're going to talk about that in Prop 19.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to close these loopholes, and there's all these efforts to try to completely remove Prop 13. And one of the things that was brought up that someone said is, look, if we lose Prop, 15, then the people who are backing the original proposition, business owners with a lot of heavy money interest, are not going to have a dog in the fight anymore. So then the next step is to go after Prop 13's original thing and appeal it, right? Get people to now remove the tax breaks that residential homeowners got. That was like kind of the threat, or the veiled threat. So it's like, how real is that? It's so hard to know, and we're not really being told, hey, this is a consideration too. It's like, who's backing up this proposition? It's people with heavy money influence, and then that does make sense. Once they're out of the fight, now the only thing that's left is these residences and farms, agriculture centers, or anybody under the 3 million mark. So they're going to have to now protect this law. Or is it going to just stay? Because it's like, okay, now it's narrowly tailored. So
it is interesting how a lot of these, a lot of the social change that takes place through this process, it is kind of like, how do you eat the elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of just start chipping away at something, making little wins, like a football game almost, gaining 6 yards, gaining 7 yards.
Yep.
To try to get, the ball across the line for whatever your lofty goal ultimately is. But you brought up a really interesting point, and Prop 19 fits into that really well. And that's this point of like, these propositions have so many different things in them.
Yes.
So sometimes there's like one big puzzle piece that you're like, well, I really like that. But then like, this thing's insane. And then I don't even understand that one.
Yeah.
And they're all bundled together on this one thing.
You're like talking about dating.
Yeah.
You're like, I like this one, but she does these things that I don't know about. But then she's got this one side that,
Yeah, right? And it's like you're trying to appease so many different parties, and then at the same time, you're trying to package something up in a way that you're hoping the electorate will buy. So you're taking whatever your thing is that you want to get through. But then you're like, how do I make this marketable? So maybe you attach, some little, like so many of these, it's like, well, the extra money goes to teachers or the extra money goes to firefighters. Or,
Oh, yeah, that's what they did with 15.
Yeah.
They put education up front. Like, hey, we're going to give this money to education. And so little of it is actually going to go to education.
That we know of. What I read was that they're predicting $2 to $5 billion is going to go to the education split. So they said that, for example, one of the costs would be having to increase the amount of assessors going out to these commercial properties, and that's going to cost about $500 million. So that's one of the costs that take away from that 6 to 8. So they're predicting 2 to 5 billion. That's what they're predicting.
I mean, I don't know who the bean counters are that figure this stuff out, but there's no way I could figure that crap out.
And the reason why it goes to the teachers, because some of the teachers' unions got together and supported these bills. So I bet they were like, hey, we heard about this initiative. You can get our support if you include these things.
I doubt the teachers sought that out. They probably were sought out by the lobbyists.
Oh, sure. And then it's like, what do you want to add in here?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. That's a better...
What will it take for us to get your support?
Right. That's
put education in there, biatch.
Yeah, that's why
pay us.
Teachers are saying this, and it's like...
And they should get paid more. Teachers should make more money. Like that's,
I agree.
Like I personally think that's really important.
I think that this bill, to recap 15 a little bit, I think it's a good idea. I just think that the threshold is too low of $3 million. I think it needs to go after the 10% that's actually holding on to 92%.
And we need to dig into that $3 million to see if that's what you're saying is justified, because you could swing my vote the other way if you find that $3 million is not high enough.
It's a pretty big,
I think it is.
It's a big shift, changing that so that you're taxed on this, market value. I mean, that's not a small thing. You know what I mean? Like that's that's not an incremental change. That's a big change. So it's definitely something that, people should think about and make sure. And Scotty, I think you make a great point on why not make it 10 million? Just up it a little bit, make sure you're keeping your kind of small people who are still trying to really get by. Make sure they're clear.
I'd rather
just hitting the big guys.
I'd rather it narrowly tailored, because then you could increase the scope over time rather than having to decrease the scope because of fallback. That's kind of the thing with goals in general. I'd rather go for something specific, and then you can modify your plan. If you're like, I want to lose weight, it's like, okay, that's a freaking. How much weight do you want to lose? What are you willing to do for it? Are you going to do dietary changes? Are you going to do workout changes? And then you just go for this big blanket thing, and then you crash.
Yeah, set yourself up some SMART goals, Sanan.
I hate SMART goals.
Specific, measurable,
achievable,
relevant, time-based.
Dang, I never can remember what the R and T is.
Some people change A to achievable, or I forget. Some other people use a different one.
It's ridiculous.
Whatever. Let's get into Prop 19.
Okay.
You guys down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes and no. What is it?
I'm going to do my very best to present this to you guys in a way that I think makes sense.
What is Prop 19? We got to get the title out there.
Yeah. Don't tell me how to do my job.
Don't tell me how to live my life.
So, Prop 19, property tax, and this title tells me almost nothing, but maybe you guys will get something from it. Property tax transfers, exemptions, and revenue for wildfire agencies and counties amendment.
Amendment. So it's an amendment to an old...
It's an amendment to something that's in the Constitution.
Right. Well, that sounds wonderful. Wildfire stuff? Yeah, support it.
So there you go. So that, whatever. So what this thing essentially is there's two big components. I was talking about hey, there's multiple pieces in these bills. There's really two big pieces in this bill.
Yes and no.
I can't just give you a yes or no because there's too many things.
I'm just kidding.
You'll want some of it, but you might not want the rest.
Okay.
So what this is right now, today, if I'm 55 or older and I sell my home, if I bought that home years ago, I'm paying property tax based on the purchase price of when I bought it, right? Now that I'm 55, I can actually sell my home and buy another home of equal or lesser value, and I can transfer my historical property tax from my previous purchase to my new house.
Damn. Wow.
If
I'm a buyer, I like that, but I don't think that's cool.
So,
dude, because if you had bought your house when you were 20, and you're 55 now.
Right.
Dude, that thing is appreciated so much in coastal cities.
So
you're gonna cash the fuck in.
So you're going to cash in on that, right? But you can only do this if the house is lesser or equal in value, and and you can only do it one time.
Hey, Sinan, I bought my house for $32,000. Can I buy this $7 million home for $32,000 and pay you $6 million something on the side?
Pretty much, because like
that's kind of what it's
like
saying,
a more
right?
realistic thing
From
would
a
be
property
like
tax point of view.
you have a home that appreciated $1 million, which is very easy to achieve, 2-bedroom home here in San Diego, and now you transfer to a $600,000 home. You just cashed in $400,000, and you're paying the low property taxes that you were
that
paying
you had previously. So
on a much smaller valued home.
So the reason, and you can do this one time, and so that's how the law is written today.
Okay.
And the reason for this, hypothetically,
Oh, so this is not in the bill. This is what's already in place.
This is what is today.
Okay.
This is how things work today, and this is important to understand how the bill changes this, because like I didn't know any of this before looking into this.
Okay.
So right. So here we are with this bill, right? And if you have, I lost my train of thought on it. Okay, wait. I have this. So, okay.
Concentrate.
Okay, so that's where it is today. So you can do this one time. So now, if you basically have, so how this bill changes that is it essentially loosens, the reason for this. The reason
You're going to have
for
to
this-
edit this out, too.
That's okay.
This is rough.
It's, okay. The reason for this, though, is that they were trying to incentivize older people to move out of their homes, because they were oftentimes in these big homes that they bought when they were like having families and stuff like that.
Right. That makes sense, because then you'd be terrified of moving, even though you don't need the house, but then your property taxes are going to shoot up.
Yeah, if you're on fixed income and you're older, you're retired, and you're like, well, I need to downsize because I can't look after this giant house anymore.
I like that.
So this was put in place as an incentive to help basically provide more mobility to seniors and people with disabilities.
Over 55.
Oh, yeah, over 55. So like
That's great.
Total. So that's where it came from. So what this bill would do, this is one piece of the bill, is it would basically expand on that tax break. So it would allow someone who's over 55, or if you're disabled, or if you are displaced by a wildfire, you would get not one but 3 opportunities to transfer your property tax from one place to another. So you could essentially carry your property tax from your initial house you bought 30 years ago. You buy a
3 times.
3 times.
So so on one hand they added wildfire.
They added wildfire
Victims of
and
wildfire.
people with disabilities.
So they didn't have people with disabilities before.
I don't remember.
Okay. So, but the wildfire's definitely.
Wildfire's new.
So that is great, because you essentially have people who are victims of, like, you lost everything, and that, like, let's say you bought your home 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now you're displaced. Now you have to buy another home, and now your property tax. Essentially, you're getting more screwed over. Like, you already got screwed over.
Yeah.
Now you're more screwed over. But now everybody gets to do it 3 times.
3 times, yeah. And previously it only applied if the house you bought was equal or lesser in value. Now, you can apply, and I'm not quite sure exactly how this works.
Where are you going with this?
But you can apply the value of your previously purchased home so that it's like it's proportional to. So you can actually apply some of that tax savings even to a house that's greater in value than what you own today.
I don't follow.
I don't know exactly how it breaks down, like how that puzzle piece works.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, you used to only be able to take advantage of this if you bought a house that was equal or lesser in value. Now you can take advantage of it even if you buy a house that's greater in value. So it's not necessarily.
So essentially, if you have the money.
So is it a prorated amount, though?
Yeah, it's like a prorated amount.
So essentially, I've sat in my house for 10 years, or I'm a property investor, or like, I have a lot of money, okay? I want to downsize, but I live in this huge freaking house. Or I want to upsize to something much nicer, maybe a high rise that's more associated with my lifestyle, but I don't want to get hit with the high rise property tax because it's over $1 million now and I have to pay extra. I could move.
Yeah.
Twice
or
more.
3 times.
Twice more. Wow.
So a yes vote, and this is
I don't know if I like that, because
only
I feel like you're now mobilizing the very wealthy.
This is only one piece of this, right? So a yes vote says yes, you're mobilizing this like 55 plus.
Right.
And the argument is that, well, they're old and, you know.
But this would be an amendment, so we're not removing this for
They can already do it
older
once.
people. Yeah.
They can already do it once. We're just saying now let them do it multiple times and let them do it, you know, for properties that are greater in value. So who's behind? So this is only one piece. We'll get into the second piece after this.
Okay.
But so who's behind this? Real estate agents. Real estate agents have sunk $13 million into trying to get this bill through. And they tried to get it through 2 years ago, and I forget what that bill was called. But they tried to get it through 2 years ago, and it failed. And it
because they didn't have wildfire victims.
They didn't have wildfire, and they didn't have.
And that's probably what happened with Prop 15, getting education involved.
Yeah, and they didn't have this second piece that I'm going to share with you guys now. So like this, so they tried it once before, it didn't go through. Real estate agents dumped $13 million into trying to pull it off. So they added something to it. So they were like, all right, well, let's look at inheritance. So right now, today, if I own a home and I want to give it to my son or, you know, or even grandchild, I can gift it to them and they'll pay the property tax that I bought it at.
Yeah, that's already in place though.
Right, that's in place today.
Yeah.
So
From the 78 bill.
whether I live
Proposition.
in it or not. So let's say I inherit a house from my dad. I'm paying the property tax from when he bought it, and you know, for 50 grand way back in the day. And then I'm like, well, I already have a house. I'm just going to rent that house out. So now I'm renting that house out, and I'm getting that super low property tax, and I'm collecting rental income, and I'm not living on it.
I'm okay with that.
So what this bill would do is it would eliminate that, so that if you inherit a house, it has to be reevaluated at market value, and you'll be taxed at that rate if you don't live in it. So
I like that.
So if you live in the
I don't
home,
like that.
Yeah, I love this. So if you live in the home, you can say, yeah, I'm going to move into their old house. That's great. I'm going to live there. Then you can keep that inherited property tax. But if you choose to like rent it out or sell it or whatever, you can't.
I think I like that
That's
because,
the second piece.
geez, that is literally taking your heart and tearing it in multiple directions.
It's tough, right?
That is
this
ridiculous.
This is a tricky one.
Because
So
it's not just
listening to this, because as a whole, I mean, for me, I'm a no on it. I like the status quo as it is, where I don't like the fact that somebody can leave their house, first of all, move out into something equal or lesser, and have that the transfer of benefit to that new piece of property. I don't like that.
But it's already in place.
But it's already in place. And saying no to this does not fix that.
Why don't you like that first one? Because it seems narrowly tailored to people who are older, who are, again, have this large property that they just don't need.
I just think that the population is changing now, and that we are going to have less opportunities for that.
How so?
I think that the baby boomers are leaving. I think that they are leaving. You know, they're going into nursing homes. They're passing away.
It's like dying.
So dying off. Yeah, I think that population bubble is changing so much that I don't think that this old law realistically looks at the situation of how the transfer of real estate is going to go. I think that it's a poor assessment, and I don't think that that's going to benefit people who are actually looking to leave their home to go buy another smaller home. I think that money. Well, I think that money realistically isn't going to go in that route. I think that what's going to end up happening is that money is going to be an inheritance to somebody else. I think that they're going to go into the nursing homes. I don't think that they're going to downsize their home. I think that at this stage, this era that we're in, I think that the bulk majority of people who have large homes and who are looking at downsizing in that aspect, they've already done it.
Okay, so
I just don't think that it catches that net.
But all you're saying is that this is just an advantage or a benefit that less people are going to take advantage of. So what's the problem?
I'm saying that
it's just like, okay, we have soda, but no one's buying soda. I guess
Sure,
I'm not
sure.
understanding why there's an issue with it if it just means that less people are utilizing
And
it.
they're also actually expecting this thing to make tax revenue too, because there's so many inherited homes.
Yes.
That
Inheritance,
that inheritance
is a big one.
Huge.
Yeah.
I got a problem with the inheritance one. So the inheritance side of things, I don't think that. Well, first of all, I don't believe that you should pay property tax on anything that you inherit. That's a gift. You lost a loved one. Now you're paying a tax on that. I think that that's shitty. I realize that it's a tremendous vehicle for a lot of income for the government, but I don't agree with it. Fundamentally, I don't agree with that at all.
So fundamentally, you should never pay property tax on a gift.
Not necessarily a gift, but as an inheritance, yes. If your mom passes away and she leaves you a house, I don't think that you should have to pay the
Scott,
inheritance tax on that.
I'm going to buy a home, and then I want you to inherit it, and we're not going to pay any property tax on it.
Taxes are already paid, it's in the family.
What do you mean?
If I bought a house, I paid my taxes on it. If I leave that to my child, I don't think that the child has to pay the taxes that I've already paid.
But why then wouldn't a wealthy family just give, like, oh, I bought this house, I don't want to pay property tax on it.
It's just being.
It's not a gift.
It's just continuing to be taxed at the original purchase.
Right.
So like you're still paying property tax.
But there's an inheritance tax though that's going to be applied to.
I think
So
I'm
the
okay with the
inheritance
tax.
The inheritance tax is you can give a gift up to $11 million one time, tax free.
It's too
California.
low.
Today.
It's too low.
That's literally what it is today. Tax free, you can give a gift, homes, money, up to $11 million.
Okay.
I mean,
tax free.
So with
that to me is like. What?
I mean, with a lot of the way
That's
that people set up inheritance is like there'll be a fund that'll help pay for the taxes if they know that their child can't pay the taxes. You know, things like that happen.
Yeah, they create a trust.
I think with the
Yeah.
inheritance tax, though, I would be very opposed to removing the tax period. What I think you could do is give people a grace period. Because I feel like never paying taxes on the property only incentivizes someone like, I don't have to pay anything for it.
They're paying taxes on the property. They're paying the same
original
price that their mom or their dad paid.
You're okay with that one?
I'm okay with that.
Oh, I thought you were
with
not
that.
okay with any tax.
No, I'm not okay with an increase in the taxes or
Okay.
a death tax, essentially an inheritance tax too.
I'm a no on this thing too, but for different reasons. So I also don't like the increase one because obviously you're benefiting some wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
Let me change my view on that. I'm okay with the increase in property taxes if you're not living in it and now using it as an investment. I think if you were to assume it and then live in there, that's different. But I essentially think that what this bill originally was kind of trying to protect in terms of housing was keeping people local. Meaning we want to incentivize you to stay and build neighborhoods in California.
Well, not necessarily those. So with Prop 19, part of this is, and this is like, there's all these like little folds in it, is it used to be that like if you're 55 and above and you wanted to sell your house and you want to take advantage of this tax break, you could only do it if you moved somewhere else in your own county. So this actually expands that to anywhere in the state.
Yeah.
And the logic
That's still
or the
cool.
reason behind that is so you could like move closer to your family.
But I'm talking about Prop 13 back in 78.
Prop
The
13.
idea was that you don't want to price Californians out of their own homes by increasing. So they wanted to incentivize people to buy and stay.
Yeah,
so I think that is a good first like vision for it. And then when I think that you're allowing people to inherit something and be potentially out of state by renting out this new inherited property you're paying nothing on and then raking in all this cash, no, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah,
like I feel like
you're raking in the cash at the new market rate, what it's worth today.
Yeah.
And like, not what it was bought at 40 years ago.
Now, if you're living in it and renting it out, I'm fine with that as long as that is your primary residence.
So I personally like that part of the bill. As it's written. Like, I think that's great, actually. I think it's a good way to, frankly, help redistribute some wealth around. But
what part of the bill?
The part where the inheritance, like, making it so that you can't rent the place out.
Yeah. You're in the same boat as I am.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you are.
I like that piece.
Yeah, I actually like that piece, too. But the other piece of the 55 or above,
I
like
hate that.
I kind of think it's right the way it is. Like
Yes.
I feel like one time is enough. Like you're old, you want to move close to your family. Okay, cool, go do it.
Now, is the current limitation
Yeah.
in county?
The current limitation is in county.
So I feel like they need to make narrow amendments. These amendments are like at least in terms of the direction, there's many different amendments, and it's not okay to have to get a simple yes or no on 5 different things when each of these amendments could be a proposition in and of itself. I think the amendment that you're talking about, that we both agree on, I like that. What I don't like is this, where you're essentially allowing somebody to increase their property, like going up in value. I feel like you're creating more mobility for people who have more money, when the intention was to create more mobility for people who didn't have as much money and who were older. Like, you're talking about a vulnerable population. It's a narrowly tailored to a small population, and this is increasing the tailoring of this and really benefiting people with money.
Yeah, so this is such an interesting bill because I think most people, or I think a lot of people I know would feel the same way we do, where we're kind of like, yeah, like, great. Like, if someone's going to inherit a whole bunch of stuff, like, yeah, pay a little bit more in property tax, big deal. But but like this 55 one, it's like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
And so real estate agents love this thing because they're like, I'm going to sell a ton of homes.
To who?
To all the 55 or above who are now
with money,
able to move around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've been behind this. They've been trying to get this through apparently for years and years and years.
Because I don't want to sell you a home that's of equal to less value.
So they keep bundling different things up into it. Like, oh, great. Well, now we're adding in these wildfire victims.
Great provision.
And we've added in people with disabilities, and we've expanded it to like different counties now.
God, so sneaky.
It's so sneaky.
Yeah.
This is really benefiting a wealthy. The majority of people who are benefiting from this are wealthy.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless you count the inheritance thing, because that you're also benefiting. Like you're kind of hurting some people who would be wealthy. But then, what wealthy person is inheriting a home and then needs to rent it out? Depending on what the home is, because it was a primary residence or it was just a property.
Well, I would think
Doesn't matter. It's going to be either.
I mean, like, so let's say you're dirt broke though, and you inherit a home, and you're like, oh great, I can keep living in my dump apartment, and I can rent this place out, and now I have some income.
Let's say that you're living in a dump apartment, you inherit a home, you can't afford the property taxes without having rent. And even with you being in there, it doesn't suit your family needs because, one, it's a bigger home that you can't afford on your own, and you don't want to live with people.
So sell it, and you just made a frick ton of money.
Hang on.
But
So
it's sentimental, and you've lived in it.
Wait, but let's take
Choices.
apart. But let's break apart property tax here real quick. It's 1% of the purchase price. So let's say you inherit a home that's like, $700,000. And then, so your new property tax, if it was reevaluated as this thing's saying, would be 1% of that. So like $7,000 a year or whatever, something like that.
If it's reassessed and it's $700,000.
Yeah. So that's how much your property tax would be, $7,000. So can you rent your house out? That's a $700,000 house to make more than $7,000 a year and cover all your costs?
Absolutely.
Of course you can.
Absolutely.
So we're not talking a big increase. Like anyone would still have a great windfall.
What if this was a transfer?
Right. Yeah.
What if this was a transfer in the sense of, or in this situation where your parents paid for that? Let's say they paid significantly less than $700,000. We'll say something in the tune of $50,000.
Yeah, sure.
And you inherit it, but the assessment goes up. Should that property value transfer over based on what your parents paid at $50,000, or should it go up to the $700,000?
Well, I think it should go up to $700,000.
I think it should stay at the $50,000.
So what do you mean? So what's the implication for staying at $50,000?
It's a transfer of title, man.
Transfer of title at $50,000, what the value was as what your parents paid for it.
That's a good point. I mean, you make it.
So you're essentially saying my $700,000 home, if I were to put it on the market, would go for $7,000, but I have it on the books as $50,000.
Well,
basically, yeah, because you inherit it from your parents' purchase price at $50,000.
Yeah.
I think the problem is
so you're inheriting a $50,000 asset essentially that hasn't been reevaluated.
I'm thinking.
It hits the pocketbook very lightly. So
Yes.
your assets are very small. So there's less liability on your assets.
It's not that your assets are small. It's that you've inherited their small asset which is turned into present day market value of $700,000.
But
So you still have a $700,000 asset.
oh, okay.
It's just you're not paying $700,000 in property taxes. You're paying $50,000 in property taxes.
See, I think I'm okay with that as
That's
long
what I
as you're
would do.
not freaking renting it out and you're not living there. If you're renting it out and you're living there, fine.
Until what? Until what end?
So
What
it
if
really
you have
is-
it and you're living there for 5 years, but it's too small of a piece of property because now you have 10 kids and you want to move you and your wife to a new location?
I think it goes back to Hollis's point,
But
where
it's
it's
a
like, where it's like, okay, now you're renting out. $7,000 is nothing
1%.
in the course of a year in the California market. Like,
Yeah, it's like.
But how do you
What do
write?
you
How do
pay?
you write that into law?
Well,
How do you
they
say,
just
okay,
did it.
hold on, I'm
They just
gonna,
did, yeah, they
I'm
just did.
leaving you a house.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay the property tax based off of what your parents were paying too. That's what you're gonna pay.
Well, that's how it is today.
that's how it is.
Now you can have this for this tax advantage until you move out of this house.
Yeah,
That's
there's-
what that's
there's-
saying.
You have a year grace period to either live in the house or not.
Oh, so that's already in place too.
Yeah, so you have a year to like.
Dude, you're
make your
getting
mind up.
Okay.
You're so many advantages.
Yeah, so you have a year to make that choice.
I
That's what I was saying. There's all these like little details in the
Yeah.
bill that I'm like, I'm not gonna remember to like spit all these off.
How
when
much
they
do you
come up.
think your 2-bedroom apartment is worth? Just the 2-bedroom.
I think it's like 1.3 or something like that.
1.3 million just for your 2-bedroom, not the building,
Yeah,
your bedroom.
I think so. I think the last real estate or the last time it was sold was like 15 years ago for 700,000.
Oh, so they have sold off
Yeah.
those. So does Devo own it?
No,
Okay, so somebody owns it.
somebody owns it.
How much do you pay per month in rent total?
I pay significantly lower than a lot of people in the area.
That's fine. Are
I
you-
pay $950.
Okay, so are both of you?
How are you make $950?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
How'd you get like the deal of the century?
That's great. For,
Probably because it was an actual inherited piece of property.
yeah.
It's a
So
killer deal.
$950. Steve-O's paying $950.
He's probably paying less.
Okay. So, Jesus, you're still making over. Let's say no. If it was 1.3 million and you're selling and you're renting it out for that, you're
So
you're
let's say
getting
you're,
sucked.
let's say you're renting
dry.
it out, let's say you're renting it out for $1,500.
So
and it's 1.3 million.
You
So
can
the
get
piece-
way more money though. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. You should.
Yeah.
That place
Yeah,
is
yeah,
going
yeah.
for
Market
1.4
rate
to
for that
1.7
Okay,
per
so-
bedroom.
So I sublease from Steve-O. Steve-O is leasing. Right. We really shouldn't be saying his name on this.
Okay.
We really need to edit that out.
Why?
Because he's a public figure in OB.
I didn't
He
know.
doesn't want to be on this.
Okay.
It's discretionary.
I didn't know that.
And we were talking about like
We really shouldn't be saying anybody's names that we know without their
Yes.
consent, honestly.
his dick size and stuff.
Yeah.
Gonna get in trouble.
But I'm renting from him. He's been there for 10 years. He was renting from an old lady. She died, left it to the daughter. The daughter kept the price that Steve-O had when the old lady was there 10 years ago or something like that. Because he's a good tenant. He's never actually brought anything to them and told them he had to fix anything. We've always done it ourselves. Like I installed a new dishwasher, shit like that. So that price is maintained there because the unit is paid off
Yeah.
and the unit was an inherited piece of property.
Where do they live?
The people who own it don't know, but they're here in California. I met them one time.
Hmm.
So they're here in San Diego somewhere.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good situation for everybody involved, right? Like they've got
Yeah.
the rental property.
It's a great
somebody else
situation
owns-
for everybody involved.
You
Now
guys
let's
are getting
say
plus-
But it's even
So,
better for them. It's
it's
significantly better.
it's great for them and it's great for us because it keeps our rent low.
Super low.
So there's other people who moved into the units in the same complex who pay double what we pay.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Easily.
So I mean, it's like I don't know how much, but I know Steve-O's are paying more than I am in rent. Why wouldn't he? You know.
Yeah,
So like I pay no utilities. It's $950. He pays probably all the utilities, and he's probably still making a couple bucks somehow.
Damn.
hi.
So we have this deal because the inheritance didn't jack up for the property value, or the property value
Sure.
didn't increase tax wise for this. So this is why it's passed down. It keeps us in a cheap spot to live. It keeps
I
them
would think-
gaining money.
I would think that's the exception, not the rule, because I think if you're any savvy business person, you would do very few renovations, jack up the price, and you'd be making way more money.
Possibly in the short term. Absolutely in the short term. Maybe not in the long term.
Why not?
Let's say they hang on to this for 25 years, 30 years. They're keeping steady income the way that it is, as opposed to turning it around and flipping it.
No, I'm not saying flipping. I'm saying the apartment, just jack up the price.
Oh, renting it?
Yeah, like why?
Oh, yeah.
Any savvy business person or anybody who has business acumen is going to be like, I could be making double for this. Why am I like?
Sure.
I don't even have to make significant.
I think with anybody though, you look at the risk assessment of it as: do you have shitty tenants? Are you going to have to keep on going in there, repainting the walls, adding new appliances, refurbishing, restoration? Everybody has that concern, right?
Well, at less than $2,000 of cash flow compared to $4,000, I think I'll deal with the headache.
Some people.
That's $24,000.
Some people don't want that headache. It's not worth it to them. So
it's like a poverty income right there, $24,000.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's income you don't have to do anything for.
Yeah, they literally have done nothing
in front of you,
this.
Hollis. Where are you going?
This is a really tough one for me because I do kind of like that inheritance piece, but I also am not a fan of just letting people who, like in my world, have quite a bit. Like I know so many, like people who are 55 and above who own homes. They've had great careers and all of that. So like, I really feel like it's the way it's set up where you can take advantage of this one time. I think makes sense. It's incentivizing downsizing instead of upsizing. So I actually think I'm a no on this.
Yeah.
But I do really like this property tax thing, and I wish these were two different propositions. So I could just be like, yeah, I'll take this inheritance piece, but I won't take this 55 piece.
All they'd have to scratch is the 55 piece out, and everything's a win for me. Disabilities, it's 55 piece and the 3 times plus higher property value. So like you have a disability or you are a wildfire victim or this inheritance tax. Oh, I like all those.
So there you go. So where are you?
No.
And you're obviously a no.
Nope.
There you go. Looks like Social Thorns voted that one down.
Wow, we actually got one on all the... Oh,
we all agreed.
We all agreed on that other research one with the bond approval.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you guys were under duress, though. You basically had to say you agreed.
Why?
Because I had a spinal cord injury.
I'm going to vote yes or no. No, I thought it was a good measure. I mean, it just seems like a kind of common sense one.
So the other one I got for today is like way easier.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what is it?
You guys want to get into it, or you want to do one of yours?
Well, how was this one sold? How is this one being sold that we just did? How are they spinning that one?
It's being
help wildfire victims.
It's being sold as provide mobility to low-income seniors,
which they already have.
They have one time, but give them more.
Okay.
So that's really how it's being sold, and then and it's also so actually it's right in the title, right? So the title's like really cryptic and weird.
The wildfire.
But like wildfire seems like a very small piece of it because you've got 20,000 people who've been displaced by wildfires.
Yeah, very few.
And then this thing's targeting, I don't know how many millions of Californians that would be affected by this. Like it's a massive number. So it's property tax transfers, exemptions, and revenue for wildfire agencies and counties amendment. So like it's really, you're right, it's highlighting this wildfire piece.
Yeah.
And when you go to their website that's like for it, it's like, and obviously kind of, it's like, I mean, it's a picture of like an African-American woman who's like, I'm not sure where she is, but it's just like, help low-income seniors. Like,
and did they say
become more mobile?
Who's backing this?
Yeah, it's all real estate agents.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You said that.
So the real estate agents want to do it because they're like, we want to sell some damn homes.
Yeah.
Which actually would be helpful for the economy because right now it's really hard for people to sell homes because so many people don't really know, like with COVID, like, what's it like? What's the home buying process like right now? I don't know what the future holds. So a lot of people are being really conservative with buying new homes at the moment.
Sure.
And selling their homes. There's way more people who are careful not to sell right now.
Yeah.
Because they're not quite sure that there's enough homes on the market, and they're like, well, am I going to be able to find a good place to move to?
I think that's how we got so lucky with our condos. I think the people panicked and sold at the pretty much early COVID, and we came. I mean, I'm not seeing any other condos going for the price we bought it for as nice as the one we have.
Nice. Yeah.
Good.
I'm pretty happy. So what's this next one?
Prop 18. Primary voting for 17-year-olds.
We're getting into that today.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
full no.
No.
So what does a yes do and what does a no do?
A yes
So yes allows 17-year-olds who will be 18 at the next general election to
Okay.
participate in the primaries.
Okay,
So,
I'm listening.
So you can participate in the primaries.
So this isn't the 16-year-old thing.
This isn't 16. This is 17-year-olds. This is the state of California. A
Okay.
no continues to prohibit 17-year-olds from voting in primaries. So right now, if you're 18, you can vote in primaries. If you're 17, you can't. What this says is, if you're 17 and will be 18 in time for the November 3rd election, then, well, sorry, not this one, but for the next election, then therefore you can vote in the primaries.
I think that's fine.
So let's get, so let me,
Does that mean that they have to register to vote to be able to make that date?
oh yeah, you have to
Yeah,
register
yeah.
to vote.
So they're not registering on their birthday like I did. They're registering before.
I mean, you could probably register on your 17th birthday.
Yeah, you just
and
won't
then-
be allowed to vote.
Yeah, and then I don't know how they just figure out the calculation for it or whatever.
Because that makes sense. Because essentially, it's like, okay, especially when you're talking about primaries. Because if you're going to be 18 on the election anyway, you can vote. The primaries are, and most people don't even engage in those primaries.
Primaries are who is going to be voted on.
Yeah. So giving someone an option to join the process
So
when they would be part of the end of the process, I think that's fine.
yeah, so my knee jerk was, I think that's the point, right? Is they'll still
Yeah.
be able to vote in the actual election.
But now they didn't get engaged at
But they
the
weren't.
outset.
Yeah. So my knee jerk was yours, Scott, where I was just like, 17-year-olds are dumb. They shouldn't be able to make any decisions for themselves. Forget that. And
I
then,
didn't say that.
So as I looked into this a little deeper, I realized like, wait a second, there's more to this. So why are some people for it? Why are some people against it? And really, there's already 18 states that have adopted this, and some have adopted it as early as 2004, and then some states have even gone down to 16.
That's so dumb.
Right. So
16 in terms of like you can vote for actual elections at 16 years old.
I think so. So let's look at some reasons why people.
You're going to vote Republican or I'm kicking you out of my house.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the reasons why people are opposed to this. They believe that, like what 16-year-old or 17-year-old has enough autonomy to make an independent decision on something.
You're talking about the exceptional teenager who's going to be informed enough to be making. I mean, adults aren't, but at least we're giving them the benefit of the doubt that hey, you're above.
So let me rattle off a little
25.
bit. So the interesting thing is this split, as far as I can tell, it's not necessarily just strictly like, I don't know, like a Democrat-Republican divide on which states have voted this in. Like you've got Utah, Colorado, Nebraska, New Mexico, Illinois, Indiana, Mississippi, Kentucky, Ohio, Virginia, West Virginia, Maine, Vermont, Maryland, and Washington, D.C.
It's Illinois, bro.
Whatever.
There's no S.
So
Silent.
So those are like some, and then also Austria, Brazil, Scotland, and Denmark have all done some like trials of this or experimented
What
with
states
it.
are those?
They're not in the continental.
52, 53, 54, and 55.
They're-
Right, Trump? Come on.
Yeah.
Don't buy Greenland.
Car, person, people, camera.
Hey, can you help me? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So here's some arguments for this. It's not fair to kids that they can be taxed, but they can't influence the laws that are governing their taxation. They can be tried as adult prisoners. You know, you can be tried as a whatchamacallit.
You can be tried as an adult at 17 for a capital crime.
Yeah, but you have no say in that if you can't vote prior to then, right? So
you get all these privileges when you're 18.
and you can get the, kind of the negative side,
Ramifications, the ramifications.
But you
of
can't
them.
drink to 21.
But you can't have any say in it, right? So those are some arguments for it.
I don't think that we should consider 18-year-olds
No, I don't.
adults.
I think we should up it
So-
all to 20, at least 21.
21, 24.
So what actually swayed
25 is a
me-
good number, but that's kind of a stretch. I
I
feel
think science
I'd be
says
like-
24.
I
you
feel-
gotta treat people like adults.
I feel bad because I got those benefits at 18, but I also recognize I shouldn't have had those benefits at 18. I think.
I don't feel bad. I don't think that they should have the power to vote.
Sure. So, but what other powers should they not have? Like, so you don't think
Breathe?
they should vote?
I don't know.
Like, do they stay under your custody until they're 25? Like,
I think by 18, it's a good time to start adventuring into the world.
I think it's fine. Yeah, get them out there.
Yeah.
Have them do it. So anyway, so what actually swayed me though when I really looked at this was not only do they, as they've kind of studied this in Denmark and in some of these states that they've been doing it, what they've seen is the earlier you get involved in the voting process. So if you're 17, you're still in like high school, most people. And, you know, so your school can encourage you to get involved. And maybe you're taking a poli-sci class, whatever, you can start to really dig apart how our process works. The earlier someone gets involved in the voting process, the more likely they are to vote throughout their lives. So, like, I don't know how firm the data is on that, but it seems to be like there's some studies that suggest that pretty strongly. So the other piece is not only does that person potentially vote more throughout the rest of their life because they were kind of indoctrinated into it as a part of their education system, their parents now basically feel obligated that they have to vote. Because you can imagine if you weren't going to vote and all of a sudden your 17-year-old's like, I can't wait to vote. You're going to be like, yeah, you know, like what kind of example are you setting for your kids? So it actually incentivizes all of the parents in that area, and they see much higher voter turnout for parents for the whole area when you enact these.
I kind of doubt the psychology of that, but I'll take it at face value.
Well, can you imagine though if you had kids, like would you want to be like, yeah, if you want to vote, I don't want to vote? Like what kind of example is that? I don't know. Like I think I would feel some pressure to be like, all right, I gotta set
that's
an
like
example here.
if my kid was like, hey, I know I'm gonna start going to church. I'm not gonna be like, maybe I should start going to church. Like that's not happening.
Yeah, but this isn't going to church. This is voting on, you know, the U.S.
Hey, Dad, I want to do a prayer. I'm like, okay. Am I gonna start praying now at table? I don't know. I'm just doubting the psychology of because my kid is doing that, I want to set the example.
Hey, Dad, I'm smoking meth.
Yeah, I'm in it. I'm in it. No, because the parent might have very, very stiff reasons for why they don't engage in the process.
Sure, they might. I'm just saying what
I can see both sides to this.
But essentially, I'm a yes on this because it seems like it's not lowering the age that they can vote. It's just allowing the primaries to be a part of the process. If they could have voted.
If they can vote at 18 for this, yes.
Yeah. If you were just 17 and you could just vote because you're 17, I'm a no.
Yeah. So the negatives against this one are, you know, no real need. Kids can be politically active without voting. Who cares?
I would vote yes on increasing the voting age. But right now, the precedent is 18, so let's just make it fair for a 17-year-old to engage in the primaries. But if they increase it to 21, I would say yes on that too.
I think if you're going to move voting up to 21, I think you have to move everything else up to 21. I think then you can't.
I agree.
Like what?
Like
enlistment.
Like you're a minor still at 18.
Enlistment, so that's fair.
So I'm going to say you're a minor, but for 3 years you can't vote. For 3 years you can pay taxes, but I don't think that's fair. And I think a lot of any 18-year-old who actually is voting is probably pretty politically active. Like, you know, like most 18-year-olds are probably busy doing
I voted when I was 18. I had some perspectives. I was incorrect on some perspectives.
Do you know why I voted for Barack Obama? Because it was freaking Barack Obama.
I mean, that's how
How superficial is that?
That's how most people vote, man. Most people are just like, I want to have a beer with that guy.
Yeah.
My favorite color is orange. I'm voting for the Cheeto president.
I love Cheetos.
I love Cheetos.
Kanye West and Cheetos.
Yeah, and the only other negative I could really find against this one, because it, you know, again, this isn't like a huge shift, right? It's just a small kind of tweak. Is, you know, what you brought up initially, Scotty, is like, well, these people are living with somebody who essentially has control over them. How can you expect their vote to be, you know, independent?
Yeah, and actually that's going to kind of go into Proposition 17 a little bit.
So, ballots in front of you. How do you vote on this one?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes, too.
we're 3 all unanimous, but we've done 6 and we did not have unanimous on those.
Now, I think what's really fun about this for me is it's kind of like 3 people learning politics.
Yeah.
That's it.
This is Civics 101 for dummies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do we want to try to do another?
Yeah, let's do Proposition 17. I'm going to fly through this one pretty quickly.
Easy?
Yeah, really easy. So this is an amendment to an existing constitutional, I guess it's an assembly constitutional amendment number 6. That's what this is officially called.
Okay.
It's a resolution to fix some wording inside of this amendment. And
I want to call them hole covers, not manhole covers.
Yeah, it's a person hole cover. It's an assembly person hole cover.
Okay, thank you.
So what this does is it distinguishes what disqualifying electors are under this amendment. So a disqualifying elector, as the stance is right now, is somebody who is a felon who's convicted and who's serving a sentence. So this is going to go in and do a little bit more. This is also going to capture mentally incompetent or imprisoned or parole for conviction of felony existing statuses. So basically, if you are serving probation, you're released, you're no longer incarcerated, you're now on parole, you still don't have the right to vote. That's what this is going to cover a loophole for.
And if you're
I thought we already did that. I thought
you're
you can't vote if you're
incarcerated,
a felon.
You can vote. You can't vote if you're incarcerated. So this is just a patchwork. This is just a verbal patchwork or a written patchwork for this amendment. So yes, that exists. There's very little that's changing to this. So it's covering the disqualifying electors are mentally incompetent or imprisoned or on parole for conviction of a felony. So that's what it is.
You can't vote if you're one of those things.
That's what they're proposing to fix in the Constitution. So there's some ambiguity with it. So like if you are, all it is just clarifying that. That's all it is.
Today, if you were on parole for a felony, you could vote?
Today, if you're, potentially you could. There's a loophole in there for you to potentially be able to vote if you are convicted, but you could be expunged from your conviction, but you're still on probation or on parole. So it's just a little patchwork to this amendment. I couldn't find anything that really pushed this back.
Yeah, what are the consequences for this?
I think this is what it's capturing though, is for the mentally ill more than anything. So putting that verbiage in there to be able to prevent mentally ill people to vote, I think that is an important understanding statement, because that, if you look at other states that allow this, so for instance, North Carolina has previously allowed mentally ill people to vote.
It's not good.
So if you are a caretaker of somebody with Down syndrome, you can walk that person into the polls and get that Down syndrome person to vote for something that they don't necessarily understand.
Bingo.
So this amendment helps stop those types of situations, as well as it stops the situation of a court convicted felon who's on parole with a loophole to be able to vote.
Where are you guys at on the felon thing?
Yeah.
Do you think felons should be allowed to vote?
No, I don't think felons who are serving should be allowed to vote. But if you fulfill your sentence, if you fulfill your sentence
from prison, you can't vote.
You should not be able to vote from prison.
I agree with that.
Yeah, you should not be able to vote if you're on probation or on parole, in my opinion. And it's just, you committed the crime. This is just part of you taking a punishment for being a civilian who committed crimes. Okay. So once you've completed your probation, once you've completed things, bar, of course, of like, if you're a convicted felon of voter fraud, no, you should never be able to vote again.
You lose.
Yeah, you lost this privilege. You should never be able to vote again. But if you're a convicted felon for, say, like Grand Theft Auto, and you're finished with probation, you're not a criminal any longer, you're just a convicted felon, I don't think that there's an issue with them being able to vote. They should be able to vote. I think it's still their privilege.
Yeah.
They're released.
You paid your price.
Yeah, you paid your price. You paid your debt to society.
Unless it was voter fraud.
Yeah, unless it's something like that. Like hackers who get caught hacking, are they going to be allowed to have a computer while they're on probation? Oh, you know.
I know you went to jail for distributing massive amounts of narcotics.
Well, I take
Here's a dispensary.
Yeah. Or you're drinking and driving and you get caught for the third time, you should not have a license.
Yeah. Until you demonstrate, like, sobriety.
Until you demonstrate sobriety, yeah.
For a long period of time.
For whatever deems
it's kind of like
suitable in
that after the ones. Well, okay, so the ballot's in front of you. Where are you guys at on it? Seems like a pretty simple one.
Pretty straightforward for me.
Yeah, I thought it was like a,
Yeah.
That was a yeah for me. I'm not seeing
I
the
don't know.
implications.
I'm not sure. I don't think it's matters in a huge way either direction, right? Like
I like the mentally ill one because
I think it does matter a little bit.
Yeah.
Not in a huge way, but I think it's enough to be able to put a piece of patchwork on it. So,
I would be curious what the people who say no to this are.
I could not find anybody to say no. I did a really brief, search for this particular proposal.
People who take advantage of mentally ill.
Well, actually,
no.
actually, there was a group out there. It was Help America with Disabilities Vote Again or something. There was an acronym that I saw, but it was really bizarre. The webpage was strange. It was more like physical disabilities than it was mental disabilities, but it certainly had some indication that they wanted to allow people with mental disabilities to continue to vote.
I think if you have a physical disability that doesn't limit your mental ability,
absolutely,
that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But mentally, just like
and there's laws on the books where you can't govern like a nonprofit if you're not mentally 100% with it,
Yeah.
Like you can't,
Well,
there's certain things.
What is it? Is it Amendment 22 in the U.S. Constitution? Not 22, 29, where the president is no longer fit to be in office. He can be removed because he's an unstable individual, an incoherent individual.
It's not even unstable, but a real developmental disability limits your cognitive ability so much. I used to work at Goodwill as a job coach, and I would essentially help developmentally disabled adults perform menial duties. And I promise you, they're mentally not there to even understand very complex things. And this group, just like the elderly, get taken advantage of. It's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it too.
Easy to take advantage of them.
Yeah. I'm just imagining.
It's so weird.
And weak people will do that.
I'm just imagining right now, in the way that the status is, if mentally ill people can go and vote, I'm imagining those hardliner caretakers, Democrat, Republican,
doesn't matter,
marching down their individual that they're caretaking and saying, "Here you go, vote for this because this is what's good for us."
So my thought on this,
just mail in their ballot with the signature.
Yeah.
Like my thought on this is like, all right, I'm not like as positive as you guys are. I'm just like, yeah, definitely, because I think the
raise my doubts.
Whether you have the mental disability or not, like I think that's like a very small proportion of anyone voting. I think that's probably some tiny percentage.
Yes.
What I'm more interested in is someone who has served their time in prison or is out on parole. There's kind of like certain civic duties we have as Americans that are kind of steps in the right direction, and so I kind of see voting as like, hey, that person is at least making an attempt to like be a citizen and participate and get involved, and so someone who's on parole, I don't know if I like the idea of taking that away from them for those few. So I'm kind of contradicting myself because, there's probably a few outliers out there who are people on parole who are like, I want to get my shit together. I want to like, get back on track. And, I want to be able to participate in vote.
I don't see how that's different from what we're saying. I think we're all saying that felons should be able to vote. I just think if the crime
but this
was...
says you shouldn't be able to vote
if you are on parole, you cannot vote. So you're still serving a sentence. You're just not incarcerated behind bars.
I think that's fine because that's part of your serving. You're still serving.
I agree.
You're still serving your duty.
I challenge you on this because you think that this is a possibility as a step forward for them to be reacclimated into society.
Yeah, make an attempt.
So I would say this though: the parolee vote is not going to tip the election.
No, of course
no,
not.
It's a very small.
I mean, just like
just like felons
just
in
like
general.
the people
Who
with
vote.
disabilities.
Felons in general who vote. It's a small
It's not
percentage.
just felons that exist. It's felons who vote. It's
Yeah.
a small.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I really think it's wrong.
There's a support group for them.
and
I
we're
really
also
think
talking
it's
about
wrong
disabled
to
people who vote.
prevent
you know?
felons from voting so long as the felony wasn't like murder.
Like I kind of see voting as like free speech though. Like that's kind of my
Yes.
thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm like really like I'm actually even torn where I think if somebody's in prison, I almost think you have had all of your other rights stripped away.
Yeah.
You know, we're locking you in bars and we have taken control of your life. But I kind of feel like it's a freedom of speech thing where like we can take everything away, but you're still a citizen and therefore you should still have one voice. And I kind of think of like, you know, attorneys, right? You've got a prosecutor and a defendant. And, you know, when you hear interviews with attorneys who are defending somebody that they think did it, you know, they're like, I think this person probably did it. And you're like, how do you sleep at night knowing that you're kind of trying to get this person off? And the logic I've heard them say is our system breaks down if there isn't somebody fighting, if there isn't always one person who will fight for you. Like you need one person. And I kind of look at this the same way where it's like a lot of these felons in prison aren't going to vote. I don't really want their, you know, I don't trust their judgment on things anyway. But I feel like it's an American value in line with freedom of speech that everyone who's a citizen, unless you are mentally challenged where you just can't comprehend reality, I think you should have the right to vote. So I'm kind of like, you know, but then at the same time.
Here's what I hope.
Yeah.
I would hope that the population of mentally disabled people is way more than the population of felons on parole who would lose out on this. Right?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know the population numbers.
I don't know if I like that. That's a bad taste in my mouth because
Why?
I don't want people to be. One, I don't want people to have mental incompetencies. I don't wish that upon anybody. I understand that exists. And I also don't want felons to exist, but I also understand that there's some laws out there that fucking suck, which might end up creating a felon.
Yes. All I'm saying, what I was trying to say was, in terms of the populations that we're looking at, on saying, like,
Yeah.
if we say yes, it shuts down these voices, right? I think there's more mentally disabled people than there are felons on parole. And let's hope that that's true because we should be seeing less felons on parole over time.
I wonder. I don't know. There's a lot
I don't
of
know.
people in prison.
I don't know. I'm trying to
like
say,
3
like,
million people in prison.
There's a lot of mentally ill people in prison.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
mentally ill people who are not in prison. Mentally disabled. A lot of developmentally disabled people don't go to prison. A lot of them don't. Some do. Some of them have super low IQs, and they're not technically like disabled, but their IQs are just super low.
Never been assessed, possibly too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have other
Okay.
So I think
Okay.
I would disagree with you guys, and I think I would vote no. Let them vote.
That surprises me.
Let who vote?
Let people on parole vote.
But remember, though, this is a two-part amendment to this.
Yeah, I think the number of people with severe enough disabilities that, you know, shouldn't vote is like teeny tiny.
Compared to the percentage of people who are on parole.
Well, it doesn't matter. The compared to doesn't matter. To me, that percentage of people who might vote that probably shouldn't because they're not competently, you know, they're not there, is so tiny that it's insignificant. And then the number of people on parole who might actually vote is also absolutely teeny tiny. It's almost insignificant. But those few people on parole who do want to vote, I want them to have the right to vote.
I think that.
So you're making a decision based on the exception.
I think. Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, there might be like 5 guys on parole who are like, I'm trying to get my crap together and I want to be able to vote.
But in the same regard,
I'm like,
though,
yeah,
I'm
you guys
making
should be
a
able to
decision on an exception as well. But my decision's not the same as yours, obviously. My decision is there's a loophole in here where mentally ill can vote. and I don't like that somebody would take advantage
You're
of a
trying to
mentally
close
ill
an
person.
exception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to close
He
one.
wants to make an exception.
Yeah, I want to open an exception. You want to close one, and I agree with the one you're going after. Like, because I've
So
seen that.
to
I
me,
need
this
more
is-
compelling reasons to
this
go for
is-
an exception, because it's that thing that you said. What was it? One person shits, we all wear diapers.
Yeah, one person shits, we all wear diapers.
Yeah.
So
I've seen
I
that
don't-
firsthand, though.
but
I've
I
seen people
also-
manipulate people.
I
who
also
just
don't
aren't
agree
cognitively
with
aware.
parolees and probationees,
Yeah,
depending on the crime, of course, to be able to vote.
yeah. I'm
So-
trying to think of what it would take for me to change my mind on that. Because I'm a believer.
I think if you're going to be voting towards the fraction exception, there's going to be really tough. That's a value.
Well, no, but I'm talking like, let's take it even out of this bill and let's talk about like someone in prison. Like
You should not vote if you're in prison.
I really feel like you can strip all the other rights away, but you're still a citizen and you're still a human being, and so you should have the right to vote.
I mean, you're serving a sentence, man. You're serving a sentence.
Yeah, if you commit a crime, you've lost your ability to do a lot of things, and civic duty is one of those.
And the exception would be the person who's in prison for the incorrectly. That's also an exception, because there's our
Person who's in
Yeah,
prison
yeah.
incorrectly, or a law that just doesn't make sense for a person to be in prison for.
like
For instance, marijuana right now.
Marijuana,
Convicted marijuana use. You know, if you're a convicted marijuana user or drug dealer and for some reason you're sitting in prison, I don't know if this exists right now, but let's just say some reason
federally, you absolutely can.
I think there's
Okay.
a
Law,
law.
you can
There's
still do
Okay,
it.
so if you're
many
yeah,
people
so
in
if you're
prison for
sitting,
that.
if you
Yeah.
but I'm saying in
Yeah.
a state that's legal to do these things, you know, like those
I
types of
think there are a
those
lot
types
You
of
can still-
situations.
if
There's a lot of
you
people in
had
prison for
Yeah.
that.
out like pounds of pot and you were selling them illegally, you would still go to prison. They would charge you federally in California.
right now.
Yeah.
So if I had 25 pounds of dope over there
Yeah.
sitting in my truck and I wanted to go for a ride, the cop pulled me over and saw my 25 pounds worth of dope, I'd go to
Intent to
jail.
distribute.
Oh,
Yeah.
no idea. No,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
think the
Because
minimum's
they've
like way higher
legalized
now.
like
Distributors
recreational.
and shit.
They're not legalizing the black trade.
Yeah, because
You-
I
Makes
the
sense.
black market trade.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
so I kind
Not
of
something
see
I
it.
ever thought about. Just
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Who wants to?
I kind
Who
of
wants
see it
to
as
do
like
that?
a,
I mean, I'm not going to have 25 pounds worth of pot. I'm not going to have any pot, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to have 25 pounds left.
it's an absolute last line of self-defense, you know. So like when you're on trial and someone's fighting for you, and then maybe you get wrongly convicted and you get put in prison, but at least you still have some tiny semblance of a voice in your tiny vote.
Mm.
So that's I think that's actually how I fall on that one.
I want to go back to that thing about the 21-year-old thing that I said, where I was like, you can't vote till you're 21. In thinking about that a little further, because the consequences of that are so steep, because if you raise everything to be 21, there's huge cultural shifts.
Mm.
Just
Too
just
old.
pontificating on this real fast.
Yeah.
I would think that we have to change the way that we focus on those years between 18 and 21. Those are prime, like, development
We need to
years.
do better for education and development, exactly.
I think the fact that people go from high school to college immediately needs to be re-examined. A lot of people do gap years, but it's
Yeah.
not culturally normal for us to do so, and kids are pressured to go into it.
Yeah.
Some of the kids in my master's program, and this happens to others, they were going into PhDs right after, or they weren't, but a lot of them were burnt out because they essentially went high school, undergrad, master's. I had 3 years out of the academic life, had trying to go do things on my own. Those 3 years in terms of development between myself and them for certain things was vast. Like, I was surprised how much, like, just life stuff that I just understood in a way that they didn't. And it was just 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody who's on that track and goes all the way through PhD finally gets out of it when they're in their like 30s. You know, they're like 28, 29, and they
Yeah.
finally come out of that whole system. That's got to be a rude awakening to jump into a business when
Potentially,
your
yeah.
whole life has been in academia, you know?
Well, I mean, one of our mutual friends, Danielle, worked for a PhD person who has horrible people skills.
Sure.
So it's like you also lose opportunities to develop people skills because you've kind of gone through most of your life through this one kind of academic bubble, which is now becoming more and more and more and more liberal.
And it's very different from, you know, the commercial side of the world, you know, like It's, yes, you have deliverables, but they're not bound by kind of consumer demand. And
Yeah.
so much of our world and our business is bound by some kind of consumer demand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just corporate stuff. Like,
So I traveled a lot when I was in college, and I would meet people from like Israel, Europe, Australia. They're all doing the gap year. I even met, like, I look at Israelis, they did gap years like after times of service, because they would do like a high school equivalent, do military inscription, and then go do a gap year, and then go to university.
They have to do a year of
Yeah.
military, right?
I think
For-
male it's 2, female it's 1 year.
Yeah.
I think.
which I'm not opposed to.
I'm not
either.
opposed to that either. Yeah, but it shows the difference.
I'm
between,
totally opposed to that.
I'm 100% for that.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
I do not want to
100%
have to go
for
in the
that.
military. What if you get one of those years where like we're invading Iraq for no reason?
No,
No,
that
non.
sucks.
In my
Like,
view,
that sucks.
In my view,
I
would
don't
be
want that.
you have to do at least non-combat.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, maybe I'd be for
Okay.
that, but like,
What if we get invaded and World War III happens?
then I think a lot of people will sign up. You know?
Well, if we
How
get
is it gonna be a
invaded, I don't
non-combat?
think you're going to have a choice. Right? You're not going to have a choice.
Too many hypotheticals. That's a
Yeah.
rabbit hole we can go down later. But getting back to this though, I think that
I'm a lover, not
I
a
think that
fighter.
those individuals that did the gap year before going into college or university, they had so much more of a sense of responsibility,
Yeah.
awareness,
Yeah.
self-control, responsibility just in general of like how to take care of everyday adult things, you know? Like you hit with stressful situations, and if you've been through stressful situations in other countries traveling on a gap year, then you can handle stressful situations in a classroom better. I think it just yields more success.
Yeah, you're a little more rigid.
So-
not
Yeah.
rigid.
And also, I think
yeah.
you probably take it. So a lot of people take it a little more seriously.
resilient. That's what
Yeah.
Yeah, resilient.
Yeah.
So like 18 years old, should you be able to vote? No. 21 years old, should you be able to vote? Yes, if you can sign up in the military, but I think that there should be some cultivation and some exploration for the individual before they do so.
Yeah. I think on the military note, I'm sure we'd have some friends that would greatly have some strong opinions on this, but you know, one of the thing is I think it'd be great to have people join the military because you get a sense of pride for the country, but I'm not sure that the military culture is equipped to really sell us on the American narrative. I've met quite a lot of vets who have gone through that system and been like, this bureaucratic bullshit. And then you also have people who drink the Kool-Aid, who are knee deep in it, and they're cool with it.
You know what I find so weird is like so many people who are really pro-military are also super against any form of communism. And like our military is essentially communist.
Yeah, it's a socialist
It's
organization.
like totally controlled. Every piece of your life is
That
dictated.
might be a person who's not very well versed politically,
It's like-
though. If
so
you
I-
can't make
like-
those distinctions.
Yeah,
I
but I,
have a-
understand
I have a-
why it exists that way. Like when you need to move quickly, you can't have, you know, people taking all this time to like vote on things. You got to have a hierarchy where there's a decision and
Yeah.
you move ahead, you know. So I get it.
My brief time as a military contractor and as a DoD civilian, I was just fascinated by the structure of the military.
We'll have to
and-
pick your brain on that because I'm probably like the furthest from any of that.
Well,
I have
like
no
before,
concept.
like going into it, I was liberal, you know, anti the man, blah blah blah. You know, like I had that education.
Yeah.
I went to college in a couple different places. I went to college, University of South Carolina for a little while, and I did Grand Rapids Community College up in Michigan, and then also a semester in Ulster,
Oh,
in
man, you were a
Ireland.
tornado?
Basically, tornado.
I don't know. I just made up a mascot.
I
So
was like, he knows some random thing about this tiny community.
So-
People do that. And you're like, what are you guys talking
Yeah,
about?
I know. I always miss
Go
that stuff.
altruists. What?
go altruists, yeah. So it's just like going into that world though, like it wasn't a graduation into it. I did a training down at Fort Tyndall in Florida, and then I basically flew over to the Middle East and was just completely immersed in this culture over there. I saw the differences between what my college buddies were doing. I saw the differences between what my buddies who weren't going to college were doing. And then I obviously made friends while I was over there who were all military people.
At the same age.
All at the same age. Yeah. All of us at the same age.
Crazy.
Yeah. So the distinctions, I mean, for me, it was just like, holy crap, this is a different world. This is a completely different world. But I see the benefits of the military and how it structures people. I also see how it broke people.
They get really
It
good
rolls
at cleaning,
people,
Yeah.
breaks
cleaning
people.
shoes and
I see the
ironing
stupidity that they
I'm
have
so
to
impressed.
go through.
Yeah.
But I understand some of the reasoning of why they have to go through those things.
That
Maybe
sounded
stupid to them.
condescending. I
Some
just
of
want to
them-
say I don't feel that way. I was just
What were you saying?
well, what I was saying, like they get really good at like cleaning shoes and ironing shirts, which honestly I am impressed. Like my buddy
Yeah.
Chris Weimer went through it all, and he's like immaculately clean all the time.
There's
They do
I
a
know
lot
he
of
learned that in the military, and I'm
Well,
so
there's-
really kind of
there's
jealous
Bullshit for
of that.
bullshit reasons.
They
too.
do a lot of bullshit for bullshit reasons, but there's also people think like who was I talking to? I forget. I was talking to some chick a while ago, and she was making a comment of how military people are stupid, and I was like,
You're stupid then.
I was like, you don't even know. Like these people have to go through training their entire career. Like, yeah, there's some dumbasses anywhere. You know, you get your
Yeah.
you know, your hard-ons that are E1s, E2s. You know, they just want to go out and party and get drunk. But who doesn't at that age,
Yeah.
right? So those are the people who they get that impression from. But you look at your people who are literally like a master sergeant is a master of their trade.
Yeah.
They have over 10,000 hours of training in their trade. They are the master. You know, like people are fucking incredibly smart. I know many military people who hold multiple bachelors and even masters.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of the
Yeah.
defense classes and some of the defense schools that they
You
go
can't
to.
paint a broad brush
Yeah.
of military.
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
No,
they're
politically either.
they're extremely
Very
complicated.
diverse.
Extremely complicated schools. So
Yeah, I've had people tell me that they think that a lot of them are conservative. I'm like, not necessarily. There's
not
definitely
necessarily.
a good amount of liberals in there too,
Yeah.
and people who lead Democratic. Hell, there's probably some communists in there because they're like, this is my bread and butter, baby. Like,
Mhm.
I just think that some of the so I was told of some stories that happened, like just ridiculous type of politics that happens because we're not in wartime, and it's just some of the stuff that you have people who just become in peacetime incompetent. Not they don't become incompetent, they are incompetent, and they become or assume positions of power that they shouldn't because they're able to drink the Kool-Aid. And you have
Yeah.
meek people who are like, bosses of other people, and it's just too bad. But I would think that if we really structured our stuff, a couple of years in the military would be good if we organize that well. Korea has to do that stuff. South Korea, they have to join the military because of North Korea threat.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank God we don't have a situation like South Korea.
Yeah,
I mean, Canada's holding us at gunpoint.
It's pretty scary having
Mexico.
North.
I mean,
Super terrified that Canada's going to
Yeah.
come over and take over San
And
Diego.
at least like with South Korea, like we've got their back. We're like, hey, if North Korea does anything crazy, like don't worry, like we'll step in.
dude, that whole geopolitical stuff just I'd hate to be playing on that risk board. Which we need to play some risk, dude.
That'd be fun.
fun. Yeah.
All right,
That'd be
so-
in the man cave.
Yeah.
So in the next podcast, you guys are planning on watching the debate.
I don't know if we'll put it on the podcast, but we're definitely gonna record
I think
it.
we should record it.
I think
Yeah.
you might not air it, but I think you should definitely get drunk
No,
and
we'll
record
record
it.
it. We'll
Yeah.
record it.
Yeah.
Now, next time we're doing Prop 16, which is the proposition on approving or denying affirmative action in our public institutions.
So on this episode of Social Thorns, we covered Proposition 18, Proposition 19, and what was your prop?
17.
Proposition 17. Hopefully,
Dang, so we've done 22,
22,
15,
14,
15.
15.
Dang.
17, 18, and 19.
Covered quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a few left. There's also I found 2 ballot measures that are for San Diego specific, and we'll have to dig into those. One
Those
of
will be
them
good.
is reforming how they review police activity. And this is kind of one of the things I mentioned at the start of our podcast. With some of these voting things, it's not narrowly tailored. So it's like, yes, I want to legalize marijuana, but you legalize marijuana for corporations to come in and sell it. And that's not necessarily what I intended.
So it's like we might instill these police reviews. I don't know what they're planning to do it, but it's like, oh, now we're gonna bog down. I wonder with these plans, are the people who are putting in these plans talking to the people who are it's gonna affect? Are they talking to police officers and be like, if we instill this, how are you gonna respond?
Speaking of legalizing marijuana, I watched a fantastic interview of this Fox reporter interviewing a guy who was an advocate for mushrooms, for hallucinogenic legalization.
No way, a Fox
And
reporter?
This Fox reporter was trying to make
Was it
this
Greg
all a
Giraldo?
joke. All you're doing is tripping your face off.
No, not
That's
Greg Giraldo.
quote
What's that
what he
guy's
says,
name?
tripping
Yeah.
your face off.
They're
And-
when
and
it was pot, they did the same bullshit.
Yeah, the guy that they interviewed, I mean, this dude was on point, on par with every reason why he should, and deflected majestically.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy was great. I'll send you the interview.
Okay.
Well-
I think it should be legalized. I don't see how corporations are going to benefit from it, so I don't see how it would pass.
Marijuana?
No, mushrooms.
Oh, mushrooms?
You're just not going to mass market that stuff.
So I hope
Good.
the people
Appreciate it.
listening learn something about these propositions.
Yeah.
We're
out.
This is Social Thorns. Scotty, say the line.
Leave us alone.